Hello, my name is Emily Penick. I am the director of The Coronation, which is an experimental dance film about a goddess who meets her match.
When I saw your film, when you submitted it to my film festival, I was first off kind of struck by the choreography, but also the cinematography.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was reading your bio, and you have a lot of stage background. This is like your first film?
It's it's my first film that was conceived as a film. So
Okay.
yes, during COVID, I had directed a play that was then translated into a feature film, but that was sort of a theater film hybrid. So yes, this is my first pure film.
It started off as a fresh film idea instead of a stage production.
Correct. Yep.
How long have you been working in theater?
Oh gosh. I mean it's been my only career. So I'm 35 and I got my MFA in directing in my 20s. So over a decade of professional theater directing and choreography.
What was it about this idea that you thought was better suited to film instead of stage?
Well, it was really born of necessity. And because it was COVID and everyone was in their own little bubble, but also the real impetus to make the film came from my work with the cinematographer Anastasia Kloklova, and she and I had worked together on the play I mentioned, An Iliad. I had directed it as a play, and then COVID swelled, and we realized we couldn't bring an audience together. So Anastasia and I made that film into that theater piece into a film.
Okay.
And when I was on set with her, I saw how Anastasia was moving and almost dancing with the camera. And watching her work, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make a dance film with this woman. She's amazing. And later that day, I saw Kelsey Burns, the star of the film, dancing on Instagram,
Yep.
and she was in her New York apartment, and these were the early days in quarantine, and dancing in a little box, and I loved how sincere her little wiggles were in a confined space. And so the whole project came out of loving Anastasia's cinematography and loving Kelsey's dance.
Yeah, the cinematography is pretty striking in this. Made me want to watch the film again. I watched it like two or three times, and not only that, is of course the lead actress. Um, she's also the writer. She wrote this
Yes,
with you.
Kelsey and I, yeah, we had a true collaboration. It was our weird little dance baby.
So how did that process come about? She's in New York. You're in Florida, right?
I'm currently in Florida. At the time of making the film, I was in Ohio.
Oh,
I had fled the city and was teaching at Ohio University remotely during COVID. So from our little Zoom boxes, we started the conversation, and I used devising theater techniques to to help us arrive at the story that we wanted to tell. So I just came in with one piece of text to kick off the collaboration, and that was Homer's in the Odyssey. Each chapter begins with a phrase, when dawn with her rose red fingers crept over the horizon once more. It's this callback. And there was something about the way that Kelsey moved, and her red hair that just kept making me think about dawn
hmm.
as like this goddess. And so we dove in with that text, um, and that ended up being like the first moment of the film, where there's that almost that sunrise, and her hands opening as if she is sort of welcoming the dawn. But from that text, we actually just started to explore themes that were interesting to us, as women, as people who were stuck in confinement at the time. And I used not only theater devising techniques, but also a lot of clown. I've done a lot of physical theater, physical comedy, and clown work. And so I would often give her an improvisational prompt, or a collection of props to go with that, and she would move and dance with that prompt. And so it became this back and forth of I would feed her a prompt, she would come up with wonderful material, we would save our favorites, and we slowly discovered she was going to play two different characters.
Okay. Kind of blossomed from improv a bit.
It did.
You didn't really have a script. You just kind of worked with each other to kind of, let's try this, let's try that, and it evolved from there.
Yeah, and once the characters became more clear, then you can sort of craft more story once you know who is in the story. But it was a several month long process of discovery.
Oh wow. When so this is we're in 2022 right now. You sent me the film, I believe, in January, December, January, around there. And so was that when you finished the film, or were you still, I mean, how long did the whole process take from conception to finish?
Yes, the idea came in August of 2020.
Okay.
And we started our remote collaboration. And we collaborated remotely all the way up until April of 2021. So that's how long it took to come up with like the script or the staging, the actual story. Then we got together, we were all freshly vaccinated, and felt comfortable getting together to shoot the thing in April of 2021.
Okay.
And we just shot it in like 2 or 3 days, and then spent all the time from April 2021 to the end of the calendar year working with Meredith Butterworth, and Jacob, our editor, so composer and editor, in post. So yeah, that was I didn't quite count those months, but it was a long process.
With that, so you have one lead, and you have a director of photography. I mean, I assume she also had gaffers and grips and all that.
No,
She
we were really a skeleton crew. It was Ian was pulling focus, which was great. Anastasia was on the one and only camera. Kate Fry, our costume designer and scenographer.
I'm sorry, say that last word again. I think.
Scenographer. So she did the sets and the costumes.
Okay.
And Kate was really the glue that held the sort of continuity together, because normally you'd have a scriptie helping out. Myself, our lighting designer Steve, and Kelsey.
So your lighting designer basically worked as your grip then, and your gaffer to help.
All of us were running around, but to be honest, it was the lighting design that made this this collaboration different from a normal film, because we essentially had 3 people on set, 3 creatives who were all responsible for lighting. So we had to create a new way of collaborating around lighting.
Okay.
I know with film, it's normally the cinematographer makes all the lighting calls. And in theater, the director works with the lighting designer, and the director has the final say. And in Steve's business, which is concert lighting design, he has all the say. He gets to program them and run the lights, for the rock show. And so I had a meeting before load-in, and I was like, hey, 3 of us are used to wearing, the lighting hat. So we need to figure out how we're going to do this. So what we did was we started with a theater approach, where I sat with the lighting designer and we pre-cued the whole show.
Okay.
So we made all of the looks, and Steve is just amazing at really bombastic texture in the air, and I love his color choices. So we built it together. We spent, I don't know, like half a day, just the 2 of us in the space building that. And then we invited the cinematographer to look at what we had built, and she edited it down for film and said, okay, great. Like, I love this look. Let's just get rid of all the lights from this side of the stage so that we only have lights from this direction. let's bring, you know, the value of everything down to 10%. And so so she shaped our theatrical collaboration to look good on camera.
It's a very, I mean, when you think about it, you three people have lighting backgrounds, but your backgrounds are vastly different to each person. Like lighting for a rock concert is different than lighting for a theater background or lighting for a film. You know,
Right.
it's nice to see that you guys all worked out a balance that way.
It was really fun. And I knew we had three leaders, and so we just needed to find a way for everyone to shine, and it was really fun.
So when you shot this, did you shoot it in order? I mean, you are on like a stage, so you didn't really
Uh,
have to move things too much, right?
right. Well, what we needed to do, because we only had a certain amount of time in the space,
Okay.
was uh, Kate, our scenic designer, she needed to make the space very messy for what we would call like the human interior. We have this goddess character, or we actually called the character Imp. So Imp is the one that you see at the beginning of the film, and then Human is the one who lives with all of the stuff. So we let Kate just have at it for a nice long load in and fill the space, dress the set. So we started with the most stuff, and then we edited back to a couple specialty shots we needed with just a couple scenic pieces. So we like edited away, you know, we partially struck things, and then we fully struck and shot the beginning of the film, which happens in a void last. The very last thing we did was the water shot, but yeah, so we kind of had to shoot it backwards so
Okay,
that load
that's
in could take
interesting.
its time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Um, so you've met your lead actress through Instagram, and
Actually, sorry, we went to high school together.
okay.
I was just
I
watching her dance on Instagram.
okay. I said when you were talking about seeing her dance on Instagram, I thought that's how you met. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay.
so you you were in Ohio, she's in New York. Where was this shot then?
New Jersey.
Oh,
It was
okay.
shot. Steve Kosiba, the lighting designer, has a lighting company that is normally like when in non-COVID times was lighting rock shows and had their gear out doing multiple concerts on the road, multiple tours. But during COVID, they had all of their gear come back to the warehouse, so they just had this full warehouse of like the best lights that money can buy. And they were like, well, we want to have some fun, so they rearranged the warehouse so that it had like an open space, kind of like a black box theater, and they made a concert rig. And so Steve was just in there for the first part of the pandemic having fun, like doing light shows by himself. And then that's the space that we used.
Oh wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. When people come and see your film, what what do you hope that they'll take from it?
Well, as I'm sure you know, with experimental dance, um, the viewer brings a lot of their own experience to it. And I wouldn't want to be prescriptive in someone's experience, but I would welcome the viewer to examine how the movie makes them feel. Um, if they realize that both characters are played by the same actress, why that might be, um, if they find themselves um, sexualizing the nudity at the beginning of the film uh, in equal parts to the sexualization of this hypersexual character you meet later in the film, or if each character gives them a different experience. But yeah, it's you really do bring your own stuff to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to tell people how to feel. I just want you to examine your feelings afterwards.
Okay. All right. But I'm sure they're going to enjoy watching your film.
It's a wild ride. I
Yeah.
mean, we worked hard on the surprises, so hopefully people enjoy the surprises.
Now that you made your first film conceived as a film from beginning, are you thinking about making another film?
Oh yes. Oh, I love film. I was pleasantly surprised by the post-production process and how much I loved working with the composer and the editor. Even the color grading was a joy. So yes, I am a total film addict now. And while I will always love theater, when you make a film, it does exist forever.
Yeah.
And that's, putting so much heart and soul and work into something. It's nice to have it be immortal. So I'm looking forward to making another film. And actually, Kelsey and I are already working on our concept for our next piece together.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ross. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.